The breaking news, this is out of the Supreme Court as well, this time involving Donald Trump. The former president has just filed his immunity brief in the special counsel's election interference case. Joining us now is NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley. So this is a brief ahead of the oral arguments, which happen next month.
That's right. And essentially, one of the big headline arguments here that Donald Trump is making is that it would be the end of the presidency as we know it if the court doesn't recognize these really broad, sweeping immunity claims that the president is seeking, basically trying to get rid of these charges in connection with his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election in the lead up to the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. Something else that jumped out at me just sort of doing a brief read through as we got before we got on air was that they really emphasized the importance, sort of this is ironic coming from the Trump folks, of the importance of the press and congressional oversight, saying that those are other checks on presidential power in this case that could be used instead of criminal charges against a president. So they're really going very broad here and saying that this case should just be dismissed all the way. Everything should just be dropped, and then making a sub argument after that, saying even if the court recognizes some sort of qualified immunity, sort of laying out the argument for how exactly the court should be, the lower court, Judge Chutkan, should be ordered to handle that when eventually, or if eventually, she gets this case back in her courtroom, Katie.
And let me just read you a little bit from the Trump brief. A denial of criminal immunity would incapacitate every future president with de facto blackmail and extortion while in office and condemn him, could be her, but they say him, to years of post office trauma at the hands of political opponents. Also on page 29, they call it the end of the presidency as we know it. Do we know if they're going to try to, I'm sure they're going to get asked about the argument they made in the lower court about how Donald Trump could do whatever he wanted, use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, and couldn't be prosecuted for it unless Congress impeached and convicted him.
Sure, or the judges could come up with their very own hypotheticals.
Yeah.
That was a hypothetical that was floated sort of by the federal appeals court judges there, but I'm sure that's something that they could press them on. Where are the outer bounds of this? And, you know, basically the argument that Trump is making is that the only way that prosecution comes into play is if first he is convicted by the Senate, which, you know, is a really high bar, as we saw in the
impeachment judgment clause.
Correct,
Yeah.
the impeachment judgment clause. Right. I mean, Donald Trump went through two of these and did not reach that 2/3 number that you need in order to secure a conviction in the Senate, given all the support that he had from his fellow Republicans. So, you know, this is the guy who bragged that he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. So, I mean, this is sort of the same sort of claim that they're now making before the highest court in the land, Katie.